Welcome back, my students, to a brand new episode of Comic Class. In today's lesson, guys, we're going to be looking at Kevin Eastman and Tom Watts' IDW TMNT 2011 Volume 7 City Fall Part 2. And yeah, I read this yesterday and I was really impressed with this book. This is the second part to the City Fall story arc. And yeah, it's going to be a really good video today. So without further ado, let's jump right into today's story. Let's go. So this story starts off with the Foot Ninja and Karai basically taking on the Savate, I believe is what they're called, the French army type gang that's in New York City at this moment. And yeah, in this moment in the story, they're basically at war with the Foot Clan. And the battle is pretty interesting, and when they get Karai kind of like on the ropes, they, along with their foot soldiers, more foot soldiers arrive with Leonardo as, reinforcements basically. And they basically save Karai from the Savate, which was a really cool scene. Now we get to see that April O'Neil and Casey Jones basically talk about everything that's going on with Leonardo, and basically the Turtles and Splinter trying to get Leonardo back on their side and back to his family. And we get to see that they share a moment and actually end up kissing each other, which is really cool. It seems like the relationship is going to be going forward from this point on, which I'm a fan of, because I don't want this to be dragged out, and rather them, get together more early in this run than later. So I like that. Now we get to see that Raphael has been searching the streets for any information on where the Foot Clan is at in order to save his brother, Leonardo. We also get to see that Karai has an interaction with Shredder and Leonardo, showing that she's not a fan of Leonardo being Shredder's second in command, that she feels like this spot belongs to her because she's been there longer than Leonardo and has proven herself way more. So we're seeing kind of a resentment in Shredder's, his plan, basically. Karai doesn't agree with it, and we'll see what she does on her own. It's a pretty interesting plot development, but we'll get to that. So we get to see that Kitsune is talking to Shredder, basically telling him about, how their plan is going so far, and Shredder gets a message from one of his foot soldiers that the Savate actually sent them, saying that they're going to be going to war with them, that now it's a full-on war. So that's going on. We also get to see that Casey's dad, gets angry about what was said by Angel and, in the last volume about him not being a good dad and that. And it's revealed to us that Casey's dad is actually the character called Hun, which really surprised me, that he's actually, I guess, used to be part of the Purple Dragons, or he used to lead them. And he makes his return in this volume. We also get to see that Splinter is gonna work with Old Hob and trying to get his son back, Leonardo, and he knows that he's gonna have to do something to prove himself to Hob, so he agrees to help Hob with an operation in order to prove himself and get Hob's help in getting Leonardo back. So I really enjoyed that they had Splinter doing something in this volume. That's always interesting when everybody is doing stuff. And yeah, we go back to the scene with Raphael, and we get to see that Raphael is confronted by his two brothers, Michelangelo and Donatello, and they basically tell him that it's not his fault that Leonardo got brainwashed, that Leonardo basically didn't give up when they did in trying to find Raphael in the first volume, and that, he's not the only one that won't give up on his brother, that he's very similar to Leonardo in that sense. So they basically make up with each other, and they basically tell Raphael they needs to kind of cool down. They have to work together to try to find their brother. And that's exactly what they do. They start working together to find Leonardo. Now, Karai and Alopets, Shredder, and Leonardo are looking at the base of the Savate, basically thinking about what their plan of attack is going to be. And while that's going on, we get to see that Karai is basically making a group of soldiers that I guess she is using from the mutagen that she had gotten in Volume 5, the Crane War, and she's creating Bebop and Rocksteady, basically, which was really cool, and I was super hyped to see that. I knew they were in this series, but I wasn't expecting them to come in this early, And I'm happy with this surprise. I'm glad they're coming in really early, and hopefully we get a whole story arc based on just those two. These are really cool and funny characters. We also get to see that Leonardo is having these type of visions, flashbacks. I don't know exactly what this is. If he's connecting to his mother on a spiritual plane, but I really like the artwork for this scene. We also get to see that Michelangelo is talking to his friend that we got to see. I think his name was Woody, and they basically reconcile after the whole situation with Slash, scaring Woody off basically from Michelangelo and his family. It seems like he's going to help him try to find his brother in his own way that he can. We also see that Donatello goes to a scientist with April O'Neil, and they basically want his help in order to get some weapons to help fight the Foot Clan and bring back Leonardo. So it seems like they're needing outside help as well, which really shows some development on Donatello's part. That, as well as all the other, Turtle brothers and Splinter and April and Casey, that they're willing to do a lot of things in order to bring Leonardo back. And I really enjoyed that. Now we go into an action scene with Leonardo and Shredder and the Foot Clan basically attacking the Savatay's base, basically that they were staking out the other night, I guess. And they basically attack them. I'm not sure if it's another night or it's the same night. But they basically attack the Savatay, and we get a really cool scene with a lot of action. We also get to see while that's going on, that Splinter is basically infiltrating the headquarters of, I think it was Batsker Industries or something like that, or Stockman Industries. And he basically gets some mutagen for Odhob in order to create more mutant fighters, I'm guessing, soldiers. And yeah, so we jump back and we get to see that Leonardo takes on the main Savatay leader, and they basically attack each other, and eventually Leonardo gets the upper hand and is about to kill the Savatay leader when Shredder says not to do it, and that they have plans for him basically in order to make an example out of the people of New York City, the clans and the gangs and stuff. And the Savatay leader basically grabs a nearby gun, and tries to shoot Leonardo, and Shredder basically cuts off his hand that's holding the gun and says that it's a coward's weapon, and tells his foot soldiers to make sure that he's patched up, that way he doesn't die of blood loss. So yeah, they're basically going to make an example out of him for the other gangs in New York Cities and the clans, and yeah. So we get to see that Raphael basically talks to Casey Jones about exactly everything that's going on. Casey basically gives him some advice, tells him that, they're not going to give up on Leonardo, that he knows that Raphael can basically bring him back, and not to blame himself basically. And, they're all family now, and they're all going to have each other's backs. Pretty cliche stuff, but it kind of works for this moment. And yeah, so we get to see that Splinter talks to Old Hob and tells him that now he has to have his trust because he did what he said, and he expects his help in bringing Leonardo back. And Old Hob basically tells Slash to use the bombs that I guess he had placed around the building without, I guess, Splinter knowing. He basically destroyed the entire facility, the research facility, and Sajin is basically no more now. Pretty sure a lot of people died in there, because I don't see anyone getting out, so that sucks for them. But we get to see that Michelangelo gets a lead from Woody, basically, that there was some group of people that had ordered pizza from him, that he could have swore he heard that, they had talked about the Foot Clan. And it turns out that that's exactly what these people are doing, that they are planning on going to the Foot Clan meetup later tonight. And Michelangelo basically attacks the group of people and tells them exactly where this meeting is going to be at. So he gets that information for his brothers and Splinter to be able to go and, find him, as well as April and Casey and Angel and stuff. So we get to see that Hun basically takes on Angel because Angel doesn't want the Purple Dragons basically follow Hun again. And it turns out that some of Shredder's people basically show up and tell them that they don't join them, they're basically gonna die. They're gonna choose their side. So a lot of the Purple Dragons, basically all of them, decide to follow Hun and join the Foot Clan, basically, and go up in arms with them. And yeah, so it seems like they're gonna join the Foot Clan in the war on New York City, or at least the control of New York City. Now Michelangelo shows back up at the turtle lair, and basically tells them that he knows where Leonardo is at and where the Foot Clan is going to be tonight. And Splinter basically shows up and says that it's time for them to bring back Leonardo. So they basically head off to go get back, his son. Now we get to see Elopets talk to Kitsune, and they basically share a heart to heart about being, Japanese, or like, being able to speak Japanese and English. And I really did enjoy how Kitsune was drawn in this volume. Whoever drew her in this volume really drew her really, beautiful in that. So I really like that. And Elopets is just such an interesting character, and I'll have to read some extra material that has this character to learn more, because I didn't read any of the mini-series or one-shots. Micro-series, I think, is what they're called. So I never saw Elopets' origin, but I would definitely have to check it out so I can learn more about this character. But they basically must have had a conversation, because something happens later on in the climax, but we'll talk about it when we get to it. So Angel basically tells Casey that his dad is back to being Hun, and Casey gets out of bed and basically says that they need to head to where the Foot Clan is beating up, because he needs to try to stop his dad from hurting his new family, basically, the Turtles and Splinter. So Shredder basically has the Savate leader in front of all the crowd, basically, and he just basically decapitates him. He executes him in front of all this crowd of gang members and stuff, and he gets all of their allegiance, basically. They basically follow the Shredder after this, and Leonardo basically has like some PTSD to when he was killed in the previous life and saw his brothers killed. So this kind of like snaps him back, not completely, but he's trying to get his mind back because of this incident, as well as talking to his mother throughout the volume. Now Hun basically is attacking people, and he almost kills Old Hob, and tries to take on Slash as well whenever Casey Jones arrives and takes on his father with Angel's help. And Raphael takes on Leonardo, basically trying to get him back to his senses, and he basically tries talking to him while they're fighting, and Leonardo is basically having flashbacks to when he was Leonardo, basically the regular Leonardo, and it's just a battle for his mind, basically. And Donatello is using that weapon that he had gotten from the scientist, as well as he gave one to April O'Neil as well. And when they're basically turning the battle in their favor, it's revealed that Karai had made some test subjects of her own, some mutant fighters slash soldiers, and that's Bebop and Rocksteady, and they made their debut in this battle. And it was a really nice panel to see these, especially with Shredder saying, where the devil is Karai, basically showing that Elopets had attacked him. And this is what I said earlier, that Elopets basically had attacked Shredder and said that he was a liar and a killer and stuff. So there had to have been something that Kitsune had told Elopets. So we'll see if Kitsune gets revealed to be a traitor or something against Shredder and was playing him this entire time, but we'll have to see about that. So we get to see that the battle between Bebop and Rocksteady and the Turtles is pretty brutal, and they're basically overpowering the Turtles in every turn. Eventually, Shredder gets tired of Leonardo basically not doing nothing, and he slaps him. And, Splinter basically comes to his son's aid and says that he should never touch his son. He says basically, "You do not touch my son, devil, ever." And they basically get into a fight. And Hun gets the advantage on Angel. It basically just takes her out really fast, and so trying to kill her when Old Hob stitches up his wounds that he took from Hun and basically shoots him in the arm, giving Casey the opportunity to defeat him. But this isn't enough to defeat Hun, and it takes Slash basically punching Hun and taking him out, Casey's father. And I'm surprised he didn't die from getting hit by Slash like that, considering he's just a regular human. So it just shows how strong Hun is, and there must be something more to him from his strength, because there's no way that he just took a hit from a mutant creature like that's that huge. There has to be an explanation for that. But yeah, basically Hun is defeated. Now we get to see that Leonardo is trying to protect his master Shredder. He is still brainwashed basically at this point, and he's trying to fight Raphael, and Raphael is basically trying to get him to see the truth. And eventually he says something that's reminiscent of what his mother said in his little flashback slash spiritual realm plane thing, and it gets him to kind of see the light in a sense. And while that's going on, Shredder is basically just destroying Splinter. He's not using any mercy. And Elopets, I guess I got this mixed up. Elopets attacked Shredder, saving Splinter. This is where, he or she, I think it's a girl, I'm not sure. Like I said, I never saw the origin, but I think it's a girl. But it doesn't really matter. Point is that they attack Shredder, and they're basically going to try killing him. And when Karai basically attacks Illipets with an arrow. But we'll see what all that was about, because we didn't see anything on panel of Kitsune saying anything to Illipet, so hopefully that gets revealed in the next volume. If there was a conversation, that we'll get to see it in a flashback or something. And Slash does this iconic move of making an escape route, an escape hole for the Turtles, Splinter, and April. And it's really funny because even Michelangelo reveals, to Slash that that's his favorite move. And he says, Slash, love that move, big guy, just in time to help me with father. And it's funny, as the other ones, say, like, I got Leo and come on April. It's just a funny scene, because that's how I felt when I saw this scene. I was like, wow, Slash is always coming in with the save. Because that's going to be his plot device from now on, is to get the Turtles out of danger. Which is okay with me, just Slash is a really cool character. Hopefully gets more development in the future, and maybe gets the ability to talk more better, so that we can get a full-on character with this character. I mean, you don't have to talk to be the best character, or to be a great character, but we'll see. But yeah, so Bebop and Rocksteady basically are chasing after them, and Old Hob and Slash basically have a getaway car for the Turtles. They basically get on it and they escape from Bebop and Rocksteady, and Old Hob uses an explosive to basically stop Bebop and Rocksteady for the time being, and we get to see them in the final panel basically on the ground saying if they're still going to get a paycheck, and it seems like Hun's there as well, not damaged, so I'm guessing he wasn't in the explosion and basically just arrived there after the explosion went off. And yeah, so the volume ends with us seeing that Shredder tells Karai and reveals to her that this was all a test, that he was going to use Leonardo to basically, hurt the Turtles' morale and Splinter's morale, and basically just damage them from the inside. But he also wanted to test what Karai would do when she was put in a situation where she wasn't the second in command, if she would rise and show her worth and her experience, and that's exactly what she did. We also get to see that Kitsune has like this look on her face that seems like she's not happy about what Shredder's saying to Karai, so I'm pretty sure there's something more to Kitsune, and hopefully Shredder doesn't kill her off. She's a really cool character, so we'll see what happens with Kitsune and see if we see her in future volumes. Hopefully she doesn't get killed off in the next volume or so. Volume or two, I guess you could say. And we get to see the final page, basically how the volume ends is Leonardo basically gives Slash back his bandana, his black bandana, and when Splinter basically tries to touch his son, he basically has some PTSD. It says, to don't touch him, basically. And it seems like Leonardo's going to have a lot of development that he's going to have to go through to get back to being the way that he was. And I really enjoy that. That's not going to be a quick turnaround, basically, that we're going to have to see Leonardo go through this change and basically deal with the consequences of what happened because of what the Turtles and what Splinter failed to, save him. That this is going to have consequences for at least the next few volumes, and I'm really looking forward to that, and hopefully they don't mess this up in the next volume and they rush it. Hopefully we get a really nice organic transition to Leonardo, coming back to himself, and hopefully it's a really good character arc for him for the next few volumes. And that's basically how the volume ends, with Old Hob and Slash basically putting back his black bandana on, getting his look back, I guess you could say his full look that we got introduced to from him back in, I think it was volume 4. And they basically drive off the Turtles, and they look at them driving off, and that's the end. And the next volume is called Northampton, so I'm guessing that's where the Turtles are going. And Shredder does mention in some dialogue text that we saw in that final page that he signed to Karai, saying that their enemies have nowhere to hide. So I'm wondering if they're going to wait for them to return, or they're going to go after them in Northampton, but we'll have to wait and see. And yeah, that was Kevin Eastman and Tom Watts' IDW TMNT 2011 Volume 7 City Fall Part 2. It was a really good volume. I did enjoy it more than the first volume, but I still think the first volume was really good in this story arc with City Fall Part 1. City Fall Part 1 was just a really good story, but I thought this wrapped up the story really nicely. And I really do enjoy that we're going to have consequences of Leonardo getting brainwashed. And hopefully we get to see what Bebop and Rocksteady are going to do, as well as Kitsune, and where her allegiance lies. and just overall what all these players are going to do in the next few volumes. I think they did a really good job setting up all these different plot threads, and hopefully they deliver on each one of them. At least most of them. Let's hope that they do that. But that's going to be all, guys. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe as I drop TMNT videos every Saturday. I'm basically calling it Turtle Saturday. It's a really fun series, and I'm just so happy to be covering the 2011 series. So I've enjoyed every volume so far, and I hope that it doesn't die down in quality, because this has been fun to, review this every week for you guys on every Saturday. And we're not stopping anytime soon, so if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. And if you're a fan of the channel, be sure to comment down below what you think of this volume. If you haven't read it, go check it out on Comicsology, link in the description down below. And yeah, until next video, guys, God bless you. Until the next lesson, keep on reading those comics.